Hello, it's Uncommon Fossil. Today I want to talk about my latest Claydol Ditto box, and today it's a Claydol Ditto Lock deck, and I think this is a very strong build. I do think this is the best build I've come up with of the deck so far, and it's a lot of fun. Just the overview of the deck, right? There's an earlier video, so you can check that out too. It's a little different, but Ditto is the attacker, primary attacker with sudden transformation. It actually doesn't attack itself, but it's got the sudden transformation ability. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile, as long as that Pokemon don't have a rule box. So versatile attacker, just going with fighting type Pokemon, and I will attack with the fighting type Pokemon on occasion themselves as well. The attackers which I'm carrying, which I have two of each of them in the deck, Galarian Zapdos, which the attack is Zapper Kick for 3 energy, does 70 damage, not great, but then you have this tremendous option you can discard all the energy from this Pokemon. If you do, then your opponent's Pokemon is now paralyzed. So unless they have a switching card, their Pokemon's stuck there, or they can evolve or switch out of it, but they can't retreat out of it. They can't attack. It's not confused where you can attack and hope. So that Pokemon, a lot of the time, can't do anything the next turn, so you're safe from damage that next turn. And then the other attacker, which is we want to switch between the two with Ditto, is Terrakion. Just on the Galarian Zapdos, it does have strong legs charge, which I'll utilize sometimes. The ability when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you can attach up to 2 fighting energy from your hand to this Pokemon. And sometimes we'll take advantage of that also if I'm going to attack with it directly. Sorry. But then the second attacker is Terrakion. Both 130 HP, slightly tankier, but again, it's not about surviving hits this deck, although it does get out of range of Cramorant, one-shotting it, or even Sableye, so it may have value in the Lost Zone matchup there. But Cavern Tackle does 120 damage, which is the big damage for this deck. Obviously still not that big, but then it's got this tremendous effect also. During your opponent's next turn, this is after the attack, use the attack, prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon. If one of your Pokemon used Cavern Tackle during last turn, this attack can't be used. So you can't stream this attack, but you are immune to damage the next turn. So you want to have a mix of Zapdos' attack with paralyzing and being immune to damage. You want to paralyze when you're getting ready to knock them out. Then you knock them out with Terrakion, and then the next turn you have to switch back to Zapdos. So you can get your opponent into a lock, especially as long as the Pokemon has 80 or more HP, such that you're not one-shotting them with Zapdos' attack. You can kind of get your opponent into a lock situation where they can't attack or do any damage to you. And even if they break the lock a couple times in the game, as a single prize deck, you can recover from breaking the lock also. So that set things up to power up the poke energy costs. They're all three energy costs, so not easy to do, but we have Claydol with its mystery charge ability. You can use this ability only if you have no supporter cards in your discard pile. No supporters, no problem. And then once during your turn, you may attach a fighting energy card from your discard pile to your Pokemon. So want to get some fighting energy in the discard pile and accelerate them to your Pokemon. You could utilize a Radiant Greninja for this deck also to get some energies in the discard and draw some cards. It does have value. The problem is bench space becomes an issue with this deck because you want to get 3 Claydol in play. I like to have an extra attacker, a Ditto on the bench, a Ditto on the active, and then a Bibarel on the bench. That's the optimal setup late game, so I don't have room for another card like Radiant Greninja or Skwovet, but I am playing a 2-2 Bibarel line. Just want to get 1 Bibarel in play. Again, bench space is tight, so 1 Bibarel in play is the ideal setup. It sets up a decent amount of the time, and once you do, it's a lot of fun. Your opponent just can't do much, so it's fun to frustrate your opponents. 12 basic energy. What I will say is when Paldea Evolve comes out, the deck does want Super Rod to recover the higher HP Pokemon when they get discarded, and Super Rod solves that problem. So I'm going to, I believe, replace a basic energy with a Super Rod. And if there's any changes beyond that I want to make, I will let you know, probably with an updated video. So the deck, trying to keep the deck list fairly straightforward. For Trekking Shoes, dig through the deck, get the cards you want in the discard, other cards you want in the hand. One Grant, so it's a supporter. Your fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage next turn, and so obviously that has benefit in and of itself sometimes, but then it also has this ability supporter. If the Grant is in the discard pile during your turn, you can discard 2 cards from hand except for Grant, and then the Grant goes into your hand. So you can play the Grant, but then get it out of the discard pile so that you can utilize Claydol's ability. And it is there without Quick Ball, getting those attackers in the discard and the energies in the discard isn't as easy as it used to be. So Grant is largely here for a discard option. 3 PokéStop, which is good through digging through the deck. You discard the top 3 cards of your deck, put any items go into your hand, so which is nice for this deck because it's basically all items, a couple stadiums, and the 1 supporter. The rest are all items and trainers, so you get a number of useful cards. But because of that discarding, the Claydols in particular, I want Super Rod in the deck. Rescue Carrier to recover the Pokemon with 90 HP or less. That is for your... you can get Bidoof with that, but primarily it's to get a Ditto 2 back over the course of the game. For Nest Ball to help set up, we need a lot of basic Pokemon. For Gutsy Pickaxe, I've kind of been a little in and out with this. I think it's useful in the deck. It's another way to dig through the deck. Obviously, you want to dig and get set up quickly. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a fighting energy, attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. If it's not a fighting energy card, put it in your hand. So it does help accelerate energy, which can be good. Although you only want to accelerate energy if you have an attacker on the bench. If early game, sometimes you have your Bidoofs and Claydols on the bench, or the basics they evolve from, and then if you hit a fighting energy, it's unfortunate because you don't want the energy attached to those Pokemon. But it does help dig through. For Great Ball, I like Great Ball. I just think with this deck it works well. Could play for Capturing Aroma instead. That's a question. I just kind of don't like Capturing Aroma. It's a personal bias. I could very well be wrong in that. My podcast partner, 10 Type, certainly says I'm wrong on that. I think most people would agree with him that Capturing Aroma is better. I just feel more comfortable with Great Ball, I gotta say. So, and the results for me have been good, but feel free to change that if you want. To Escape Rope, to let some of the Bibarels or Claydols out of the active, as well as switching our opponent if need be, because we don't have any Gust, right? No Boss or anything, because we don't play supporters. And then for Ultra Ball. So that's the list. Let's jump in and see how it performs on the rank ladder. Like I said, I've been having a lot of fun with the deck and a pretty good level of success. It sets up relatively frequently. All right, my opponent's calling the coin flip using the global beta coin, and I imagine deck box and sleeves. Back in PTCGO, I used to see your opponent's deck box sitting there. We don't really get to see our opponent's deck box. Maybe it flashed up before the game started, I don't remember, but before on PTCGO, it sat there on the board, right, which is kind of simulating the IRL experience. They don't do that here, which is okay. Might be nice if they did. So starting a Zapdos, so obviously the ability to accelerate energy to itself is not useful in this case. Stonejourner, so another single prize fighting deck. And this has a deck that's seen some play. Oh, actually it could be, I'm sorry, there is a Stonejourner build with single prize, but it's probably, it's Lost Zone, so it's probably Lugia Archeops, which isn't a bad matchup. Yeah, so Lugia in that I have a few turns to set up, right? They're not, the problem is if they set up next turn, which they might, right? Since they went first, I need to get set up within a couple turns. But I can come back. They have nice tanky multi-prizers. That's the type of deck that's nice to go up against. So sequencing here, let's see. Great Ball first. Get a basic Pokemon that I can get on the bench. I'll do Trekking Shoes. I want to get a potential attacker on the bench before I play Gutsy Pickaxe, right? So Ditto, yep, Ditto's good. I like that. I'm going to Gutsy Pickaxe, see what I hit with that. So Grant, I'll just sit on that. I'm going to see what I hit off this and see what Pokemon I lose, right? Because sometimes that goes badly. Zapdos and a Baltoy. That's not bad. Zapdos, it was Zapdos, right? So the other Zapdos in the deck, so that's good for my Ditto. So I need to get a Baltoy onto the bench. And I need to attach an energy. The Zapdos is a pivot, so leave him in the active. And end turn. So it's not a bad hand right now. I'll draw a card next turn. I can probably play Ultra Ball, discard, assuming I can discard what I draw, right? And then get a Bibarel, and then draw 5 cards. And then see what I have. Maybe PokéStop. So my opponent, what's their situation with? So they don't have any Pokemon in the discard pile, so that's good for me. Lumineon V probably getting a research. Could be bait. Oh, Professor Burnett. Yep, that's the other option. So that guarantees them getting 2 Archeops in the discard pile. So that means they're going to attack this turn, take the knockout. Again, I'll fall behind in prizes, and even if they take, I can fall behind a couple of prizes and still come back with this deck I have. So let's see we'll see what happens. Certainly don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, look, Lugia, Archeops, single strike, very strong deck indeed. So they might have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So they need one more energy, I believe, to get knockout, which they will. And 20 more, 30, 40, 50. So they're doing 70 right now. All right, I don't know why they... I don't think they should have attached 4 energy. So I can't use Giga Hammer next turn, which is fine. We'll see what I can do here. See what I top deck. So Rope, don't need that. So discard there. Get the barrel. I need a Claydol and an energy. And I can attack. The problem, I do have issues though with that. We'll see. I'm not set up well. I don't have a very strong bench set up yet, so I have to be careful what I do here. So that's solid. So I can attack. PokéStop and see what I get. I'm a little concerned. Gutsy Pickaxe, those are okay. Trying to think what I want to do here. Did I get a ball? I have a Baltoy and get a Ditto. Those are the bench guys I want to get down. Yeah, I'm trying to think, do I want to put down the Terrakion, right? I definitely want the Baltoy down. I could toss down the Terrakion and attack with him as an option too, which might not be bad, because until I get a Terrakion in the discard, right, I'm not in great shape. So I'll make that play. Okay. So, oh, I need to get back Grant, don't I? So that's, okay, that's why that's not working. So let me get Grant back. Ditto Bidoof. So that's okay. Oh, so that was a mistake. So I really did mess up, didn't I? I should have, yeah. I see, I hadn't played this deck quite as recently as I should have, and I should have benched the Ditto and discarded the Terrakion with Grant, but I was dumb. Guilty of stupidity. So I will sure, I'll paralyze. I'll see what happens, right? The advantage to paralyzing, they couldn't attack next turn, but they could have just retreated. I don't know if they would have wanted to retreat and toss away the energy. Perhaps that's partly why they attached the 4th energy. They do have Welcoming Lantern in deck to recover the single strike energy. So, yeah, so I definitely misplayed that. So, hopefully, maybe you caught that mistake beforehand. I should have benched the Ditto, discarded the Terrakion with the Grant. So, my mistake there. But we'll see what happens next turn. I may play the Grant and then the Bibarel just to thin the hand some. I need to get an energy and another Claydol in order to be able to utilize my attack. Honestly, if they play a rope, I'm happy with that because I can send up the Terrakion. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, that was a misplay. That was a significant misplay on my part. I would have been in a much, much better position had I made the right play. Which isn't a shock, right? You make the wrong play, things you get punished for, which you should, right? I was dumb. I should have had the game. Should have had a almost ideal board state at this point, and I didn't. I should have had the Terrakion on the discard, that Ditto on the bench. All right, let's see what I hit into. So that's not bad there. So I will attach active. I will draw with the Bibarel. I'm not sure. All right, hit a Claydol. That's quite nice, right? Claydol's nice. Grab the Ditto to thin. Don't really need Ditto energy, so I can... So I'll take knockout. They're going to knock me out, I imagine. But that's... I can still survive this, right? I was dumb. Save the Grant. I need to get that. I want to get that third Claydol. So I'll just take the knockout. No reason to discard the energy because they might play rope. They probably won't, right? No reason to discard. Paralysis is a waste. We'll see what happens here. Right. After this, all their Pokemon are bigger. Well, even that Pokemon, they're all bigger than 120 HP, which is what the Terrakion does. So now I can, if they send up an Archeops, which I don't think they will because that's so crucial for them, I can one-shot the Archeops with Grant, right? Because that does 120, 150, and that hits it. And obviously I would want to one-shot the Archeops because that just makes their life much harder. I have no gusting with this deck, so that's okay. So they bumped my stadium. That's actually a nice stadium for me, and I don't really want to play PokéStop anymore, probably. I have enough pieces in hand. Without Super Rod, I'm always a little nervous about what's going to happen. So, but at this point, I'll get knocked out, probably. I'll attack with Terrakion, which I'm immune after, and that's okay. And then I will bench a Ditto, and it's okay. I'm in an okay spot. Not the spot, like I said, I wish I was in because it wasn't. Okay, they got rid of their stadium. Smart move because I certainly was looking forward to playing it. I don't need the stadium at this point still, so that's okay. I have draw options. I'll probably play the Grant just to thin my hand too. So let me play a couple Trekking Shoes, right? Yeah, some energy in hand's not bad, right? I have enough energy in the discard. As the game grinds on, I might need to attach some by hand. Oh yeah, I want that. That is beautiful, right? So, what do I want to recover? All right, so I can recover Rescue Carrier. So let me recover here. No, not you. I want the two Dittos. I don't know if I want to play the Grant or not. The Grant may just be a nuisance at this point, right? Ultra Ball. Energy. Let's see. Do I have... I just played 2 Rescue Carrier, right? I believe. Yeah, so I'm out of Rescue Carriers, so I need to be careful. So let me get rid of the Ditto. I could regret that. It's possible, but hopefully I don't, right? Play that. That's solid. Okay. I have to think. Do I want to? Obviously, the Grant gives me a benefit this turn. I'm going to have to get rid of cards from my hand, though, if I utilize that, right? Which I could do, right? Because I can get rid of... Let's think here. I don't have a Terrakion yet, so let me just sit on these cards and let me just attack. Yeah, so that's okay. I don't love it. Ultra Ball can dig a Terrakion out. Grant could discard a Terrakion. I've got a lot of turns, though, before I can win this game, right? And I don't want to deck out first. So I've taken 1 prize. I got to get 5 more. I've got to take 3 Pokemon, probably. 4 if they want to toss in their 2 Archeops first. I can't imagine they want to do that. All right, so that's okay. So they're going to gust up the... Well, let's see what they do. Yeah, Ditto, which makes sense. I mean, taking out a Claydol would be damaging, too. But that makes sense, because I cannot attack with Terrakion this turn. But I'm going to just have to hard retreat, which I can do because he has all his energy on, right? So that's not terrible either. Right? It won't let me choose the attack. That's okie dokie. And I'm going to go into attack paralysis mode. Right? Which is perfectly fine with me. What's the Ditto situation? 2, so I have 1 more Ditto in the realm. Okay. So I will pay the retreat cost, send him up. I will just attack. Does 70. And I want to discard all energy. And yes. Okay. You know, obviously having the Terrakion on the bench makes life awkward, for sure. I can navigate it, but I have to be paying the retreat cost. And at this point, I don't have any energies in hand to do any extra attaching. I have 7. I mean, that means I have 5 more energy around. It's a pretty safe bet they're not all 5 prize cards aren't my 5 energy. So we'll see what happens. All right, so they played Mesa Goza again. I have no need for that. Well, that's not true. I mean, I want to get on my other Ditto and play at some point. We'll see what happens. I'll probably just keep attacking with the Ditto. At some point, I'll attack with Tyranitar. I could take the knockout this next turn with Terrakion. But I'm in that situation, that energy situation, right? Because I have to retreat, and I'm in a bit of a bind here. You know, I need a 4th energy to retreat the Ditto, which I can't do because I don't have. If I even had 1 energy attached to the Terrakion or something, then I could hard retreat. At this point, I need all 3 energies to be accelerated. That's why having an energy or 2 in hand is useful. There is the new energy retrieval card coming out that does allow you to discard, but I'm not sure with what it says exactly, I gotta say. So I think you may have to, you draw up to, I think you draw 4 energy into hand. I think it has to, all 4 have to go to hand, which I don't love. If it's up to 4, then it'd be useful to discard 2 and draw up to 4. But I don't like at this point. Drawing 4 is fine. It's another discard. It's an item to discard with besides Ultra Ball, which I do like that. Right. I certainly wish Quick Ball was around for this deck. I think I will paralyze again, and then we'll see what happens. Because I don't, if I had the 2 Dittos, the retreat cost of the Ditto is 1, so it's more viable for me to retreat. Okay, so I have knockout here, and let's see what I have here. No Pokemon. Okay. Let me dig one more card. Okay, Energy in Hand is nice too, for sure. Gives me some options, right? So what do I need to do? I need to... I should have done this before, shouldn't I? I should have flipped. Looked, even if I don't want to take something, it's worth playing, right? Heads. Okay, good. So... So at this point, I'll attack with copy Terrakion's attack on Ditto, and that's a plus for me for sure. I don't really want to accelerate. I don't know if accelerating an extra energy to Terrakion helps me from my hand. I have an extra energy in hand, right? But I don't think that helps me. So let me get rid of Terrakion and Bibarel. I will grab the Ditto, and now I can copy Terrakion. Immune to damage. The problem, if they gust, no, actually, if they gust up even my Terrakion, which is 3 energy, I can accelerate the 3 energy to it, and attack with Ditto potentially. So. Right. The problem is that they're gonna, yeah. Well, if they can't damage this Ditto, right? So I'm trying to think it through. If they knock out my other Terrakion, then I can then I just send up the Ditto. So I think I'm okay here. I think so, right? I'm trying to not confuse myself with the different options. All right, so I got Ditto again in hand. That's nice. Puts me a couple more turns for a deck out, which is one of the risks, right? The deck takes a little bit to get going. Like I said, I misplayed early. The deck is better. It works better than I have shown it to be at this point. This might just be a one-game video. It's taken a while. I think I'm going to get the win, but I'm certainly not positive about that. So are they gonna? So they're milling 2, though. I don't like their milling 2, so I need to paralyze them, right? That's pretty simple. Need to paralyze, and then they can't attack next turn, right? So this is where things get important with the options of this deck. I'm putting 3 energies on the Terrakion because that way it gives me the retreat option if I need to. I can attack with this Terrakion if need be, or I can retreat and send up the other Ditto, but I don't need. But then I can accelerate all 3 energies to the Ditto if I get knocked out. So I need to paralyze my opponent. It's that simple. Now the milling's important, right? Because decking out's it's gonna be close to win versus deck out here. I mean, still my opponent could win, but I'm a single prize deck. I don't believe they're hitting into my bench at all, so they've got to take 3 knockouts left. They're not going to deck out before I do. Well, I mean, they could if they want to use the 240 attack to one-shot me. So they need to get a switch card. If they switch, then they can attack, right? They just need, and they need a switch, a rope. So they're going to gust something up, but that's okay too, because now I attach to Terrakion. Again, I have plenty of energy. I'll just accelerate 2 energy to Claydol and have him retreat. So that's okay too. I don't have an issue with that, right? I mean, that's maybe their best play, but they should know I have 8 energy in the discard. So I'm just going to accelerate to myself. Again, I'm not playing the Grant down. It don't need to. I just have to discard more if I do that. So that's a good play, actually. So I cannot. So what am I going to do here? All right, so they have disrupted me with that successfully. So they've broken the lock, right? I need to attach 2, and I can only get 2 more energies into play, right? So I'm going to retreat. I'm going to hit him with Terrakion. What's their HP? 160, 20. So playing Grant doesn't get me to the numbers I need. So I'm not going to bother doing that. I will attach 1 energy to the Ditto. And I have an energy in hand, so that means if they gust up some other Pokemon next turn, I can retreat, right? And attack still. I used all my Claydols. So hit into them. Now, the problem is they're going to mill me next turn, right? That's the problem. They're going to mill me. So I'm running so I do have the deck out is there, right? They're going to take 2 cards away from me. They're not going to knock me out, I assume. But they're milling 2. Okay, so I'm down to 5, but I will knock them out, right? I switch it, I retreat and send up Ditto. You know, the fact that I benched that Terrakion, you can see the awkwardness of it. You can see why I want 2 Dittos in play. What happened? And they concede. So there we go, because it was going to be close. I think I had game. I think I was going to get the prizes before decking out. So there you see the deck doing its thing, right? As like you switch between the attacks. With Ditto, you can copy either attack or in it. It's quite nice. You could put the Stone Journer in that does, with no supporters in the discard pile, does 190. That's kind of the one Pokemon intended to pair with Claydol, but I do feel like this is a much stronger option. It really puts the pressure on your opponent. The goal is set up, get the lock in place, and just grind your opponent down till you take all your prizes or they concede. And honestly, it works most of the time. Even when someone makes a bonehead play like I did, the deck still performed. It took me a couple, opponent got a prize or so before I could set up fully, because that's okay. You got to get 3 stage 1s on the bench, and actually Bibarel, so you really want to get 4 stage 1s on the bench. But you know what? You can fall behind a couple prizes, not a problem. So just stay calm for it when you fall behind, and just work on setting things up, and then go into action once it's all in place. A really fun deck to play. I really encourage you to give it a try. Let me know what you think of the deck. If you have any suggestions to make it better, or ideas when the new Paldea Evolve set comes out, let me know. Have a good day.